It is here. Steelers training camp is officially starting. We're turning it into high gear here on the Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy. I'm Jay York Football. This is Mic'd Up Sports One, and we are going to preview the Steelers 2023 training camp. I almost forgot what year it is, man.
I
Sammy,
know.
roll it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy.
Harris Smith shields. Flacco Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 43. Pittsburgh might be bound for that thanks to number 43.
The sickest Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
It's been a long year without football, so I feel that, man. Who knows what year it is at this point, but happy that the 2023-24 season is about to start, because you always got to remember it carries over.
2024 when we hoist the Lombardi, right?
You may be 2025, but we'll see. That's a conversation for another day, I think.
Yeah, so like I said, Steelers training camp's going to be started. We're going to be up there, giving you guys all the good stuff and, what we're seeing, what's going on. There's a lot of position battles that, I think we'll touch on. I think the biggest thing going into this year is just year two, Kenny Pickett. This team, seeing the draft picks, Joey Porter Jr., Nick Herbig, a lot of those guys like Corey Trice Jr. that are trying to make a name for themselves. Just really, if you had to pinpoint I don't know how we want to call this. I don't want to say superlatives, but who needs to stick out in this training camp? Not necessarily to make the 53-man roster, but to get a chance week one to really make an impact immediately.
Good question. A handful of guys that you could point to. A guy that I've been high on is Mark Robinson, linebacker, who I think has a chance to potentially break through and ultimately start over Cole Holcomb or Landon Roberts as the season continues. The cornerback battle is really interesting. Levi Wallace and Joey Porter Jr., who's going to start on the outside there, because it looks like Pat Pete, one of the Steelers' big free agent offseason signings, is entrenched at least, somewhere in that defensive backfield, going to play almost 100% of snaps out there, even at his old age, his AARP card age. But I'm going to say Calvin Austin III. That's going to be my answer right there. The wide receiver, gadget, of course, draft pick last year in the 4th round. Lisfranc injury prevented him from playing last season. Didn't touch the field, man. Didn't even really play in the preseason because that injury happened so early on. Really unfortunate for him. And that held the Steelers' offense back to a degree. They didn't really have a gadget, a guy who could go 0 to 100 and take a kick return to the house or take a punt return to the house and get you a quick 6. They had to manufacture all these long 13, 14 play drives. There wasn't any guy really you could hit a bubble screen out there to and hope he takes it 70 yards to the house. Does Calvin Austin have that ability? Well, to be determined. He's like your height, no offense. He's like 160 pounds soaking wet, and there hasn't been a great history of NFL receivers at that height and weight being successful. I tweeted about some of the guys in the league around that height who include Rondale Moore from the Cardinals, who hasn't lived up to his potential, Jakeem Grant, who's played for the Bears, Dolphins, so on and so forth. He's like a kick returner, punt returner, but not much of a receiving threat at the end of the day. I think Wan'Dale Robinson, Amari Rodgers from the Packers absolutely has given them nothing, the receiver out of Clemson. So, Listen, there are always outliers. I think Wan'Dale Robinson can be pretty good. So I'm just pumped to watch Calvin Austin III, man. Will he end up taking snaps from Allen Robinson, who's another new player in the slot? Or is he just going to be someone who ultimately is only a punt returner and a kick returner? To be determined, man. That'll be my number one preseason game watch. CA3.
Yeah, so I kind of went the same position, but a different route. And I think it's because of just his spectacular catches last year that, the ceiling on George Pickens was kind of like through the roof. But I think this year, ultimately, that this is what's going to separate him from an NFL superstar rather than just, hey, that's the guy that makes these amazing catches. I think that he can be consistent. I think that when the depth in receivers with Allen Robinson and all the other guys that are going to be fighting for a roster spot, as you spoke on it, Kelvin Austin III, Deontay Johnson. I just seen Kenny Pickett said we're going to get him some touchdowns this year. I would love to see that. I think that going into just on the specifically the offensive side of the ball, I think collectively they just need to not be greedy, leave the egos at home. And I think that that's what I really see in this team. This reminds me of, a decade, well, when we won the Super Bowl or whenever it was, just thinking back to, Super Bowl XL, really, that was such a good locker room. I think when you have players like Cam Hayward on the other side of the ball who are, setting examples for these young guys on defense, you have, Kenny, I feel like, just because, we covered him in college and stuff, he's like an old soul. He kind of just has that calm demeanor to him. And I really think that this year for the Steelers, the ceiling is what they want the ceiling to be. But I think it starts with a collective effort. The Jaylen Warrens, whoever's going to show up. It doesn't matter if you're wearing black and gold and you have your name on the back of that jersey. Mike Tomlin mentality, next man up. And I think that is going to be the biggest thing going into week one is, you're starting with the 49ers. It's, you gotta come right out the gate firing.
Yeah, for sure. I posed an interesting question on Twitter the other day, and I asked what would be considered a successful season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And most of the answers I got were, 10 wins, 11 wins, and a playoff victory. But if you ask anybody around the Steelers who works for the Steelers, the players, they're not taking that shit.
Yeah.
They want a Super Bowl ring. They don't care. They don't want to hear about
Every
my
year.
quarterback's a second-year guy. Let's get one playoff win and be content. No, they want to win a Super Bowl. There have been second-year quarterbacks, obviously, to win Super Bowls. I'll name one for you. Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger. There you go right there. A guy, obviously, that, probably maybe that season, even the Steelers were, I think, 15-1 the year before. People probably were still like, oh, you know what? Only a second-year quarterback. Joe Bettis in his last year. Who knows? Maybe we'll take a playoff win from them. But don't tell them that, right? They went on to win a Super Bowl. So maybe as fans, analysts, onlookers, we probably can surmise that this team is not Super Bowl ready on paper. But don't tell them that because that's the goal. That's a successful season for them. Nothing else. Nope. Wild card win, playoff game, and then elimination. You're not going to go to Coach Tomlin and he's going to be like, yeah, you know what? We nailed this season. This is exactly what we wanted. No, guys are going to be disappointed.
Yeah, and along with the Super Bowl, I think that we want to give a big shout out to our two new sponsors. First, starting out with Brushes and Beans. It's a local coffee shop. Caffeinate and create at Brushes and Beans Cafe. Visit them at 4550 William Penn Highway in the beautiful city of Murraysville, not too far from my house. They have live music, just a bunch of creative stuff going on. Mark over there, he's such a great guy. I'm going to be stopping by this week to get some coffee, maybe some tea, check out some live music. So make sure you get down the Brushes and Bean right on William Penn Highway in Murraysville. And then also, before you go to Brushes and Bean to get your coffee, make sure we just started our other partnership with Yin's Clothing, and we have a code. It is SICK15, and they have a variety of stuff over there you'll be able to check out, all for your black and gold, whatever team you're cheering on, or maybe something for your mom and dad, grandpa, aunt, uncle. They're coming in from out of town. Give them some, some Shop Yin's gear. So make sure you head over to their website before you go to the coffee shop. Throw that on, but make sure it doesn't matter what you spend. Use our code SICK15. That is SICK15, 15% off. Boom, at checkout. You'll be looking fly wherever you go. Go to Brushes and Beans, go to get your coffee, go to get a Permani sandwich. It's a Pittsburgh thing. Now let's get back to Steeler football. So Let me see. What are your thoughts on this Alex Highsmith signing? Because I think that he said himself that was so big because no one wants to go. We've seen what happened with Deontay Johnson. No one wants to go and bring, because then you're drawing away. You're trying to grow it when you're at training camp, and then you just it's a distraction. So I know we know Alex Highsmith. He's been on the show before. Just great family, great guy. So couldn't happen to a better person. I mean, I think that people can say what they want. He has TJ Watt on the other, this and that, but it's a team sport. And if having a player on the team lifts and boosts the morale of the players around him, that's what we're here for. So the Alex Highsmith signing, A++ for me. Just great stuff. Just wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, I feel that. I'll give some numbers here. 4 years, $68 million contract extension, 27 and $743 million in guaranteed salary. I'm with you. I know a lot of times we don't talk too negatively about the Steelers on this platform, but how can you not like this? There's nothing bad I can say about it. Highsmith is a dude who no doubt has earned this deal with his play, with his demeanor, his attitude. He is a Pittsburgh Steeler. He embodies what it's like. A walk-on in college, and then a guy who obviously, had to prove the doubters wrong to ultimately get where he wanted to be in the NFL, which was a starting linebacker, an incredibly productive starting linebacker who amassed double-digit sacks last year, who still performed well in the absence of TJ Watt, even though he had Malik Reed next to him, who, is not a guy that I see being an NFL capable player moving forward. He was not good at all last year. So Alex Highsmith, the deal, a lot of people might have said, oh, this is a lot of money. He's now whatever it was, the highest paid linebacker in the outside linebacker in the NFL. But for me, that was just natural inflation. You're going to see a handful of guys continue to be signed, and before you know it, his deal is going to look like an absolute steal. It's still a little over half of what TJ Watt is. It's about half of what TJ Watt is making in terms of a yearly, annual salary. And I don't know, TJ Watt is one of the best players I've ever seen, but is he double the value of Alex Highsmith? That just shows the quality and the value they got in Highsmith. And I agree with you. He's not going to be satisfied. He's not going to be one of those dudes who takes his money and goes to Barbados for 3 weeks. And
I think that he's a player that truly. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that he's a player that truly loves the game. And I'm not saying that these guys don't, but everyone's chasing the bag. I understand that. You could be here one day, gone tomorrow, and you don't play until you're 50 years old unless you're Tom Brady in this sport. So again, all good stuff. So let's talk a little bit about the Steelers draft class. Broderick Jones, Joey Porter Jr., we kind of touched on. I think that beefing up the up front just in free agency, what Omar Khan has done, it's just, and again, I'm not like, people are always like, you're a homer, trust me, there's going to be a lot of room for growth with this Steeler team. They're young. It's not like, these draft picks are going to come in here. They're going to have an instant impact, but they're also going to make a lot of, errors. The speed of the game's different, everything, the competition isn't, you're not playing, a Division II school the first week, like you're playing the San Francisco 49ers. It's going to be, a little bit different, and things take time. Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say.
Yeah.
But I just think that, especially getting Joey Porter Jr. at 32, and then, Broderick Jones, it's just everything work. Like if you were to, I think you actually picked this when we were live on Bleacher Report. People were telling me, trying to get the lottery numbers from you. But this is like, a dream come true for, any Steeler fan. And you can't say anything. Like there's really not anything negative except like, let's see what they amount to on the field.
Here's my plea to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Start Broderick Jones in week 1. Play him right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Because if you start Dan Moore Jr. and he doesn't play well, you're going to resort to excuses. Oh, he was dominated by Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa, which is the reason they didn't win, right? Or the reason the Pittsburgh Steelers struggled the first two games is because Broderick Jones didn't play. I want to alleviate the chance of all excuses. Start your first-round draft pick. Obviously, you weren't confident enough in Dan Moore Jr. when you trade up for a left tackle who is eventually going to be his replacement. So make Broderick Jones the week one starter. I will liken it to Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky last year. Kenny Pickett, by all measures, was ready to go. He was a 5-year player at Pitt. Throw him into the fire. Let him learn those first few weeks. Even if he struggles, you're probably better off for it, especially because the Steelers want this young core to play together for a decade, of course. So, don't make Dan Moore your Mitch Trubisky of last season. Don't have an excuse built in if you struggle early on in regard to your offensive line. Because the reason they addressed the offensive line is because they know they needed help. So provide that help right away. No need to sit back because it's going to happen eventually. It's obvious, right? It's going to happen. That's my plea to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
There you have it. I don't even know if I have anything to come back with that. That was just damn good stuff. But I do, before we head out of here, I wanted to talk about the Steelers. Well, CBS Sports just recently said that Jaylen Warren was their breakout player of the year. So let's kind of talk about how you think the running back, because we want to say here on the Sick Podcast, we do support the running backs. We
Yes,
understand, sir. But
we need a shirt. Running backs are enough for us.
Yes, but
and that might be a Yin's shop idea. Shop
there
Yin's.
you have it. But what I will say about this is that the dynamic of the NFL isn't what it used to be. You don't have the Jerome Bettis's, the Chris Futumatu-Malafala. Like, you don't have those type of running backs. And that's just the way it is. These guys, once they turn 27, 28 years old, that's considered old. You get what you can out of them. It's a tough position, but we do know that the running back position opens up the passing game. So let's touch a little bit on Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris, the 1-2 punch, and how you think that the game plan will kind of go with the running game.
Yeah, I'm with you. First of all, man, we need to be in the streets with our signs. Like, we support the running backs.
Yeah, I mean, I do.
Running backs are enough for us. I think in the NFL nowadays, you're exactly right. These guys are in a lose-lose position to a degree because the more reps and touches you accumulate, the better your stats are going to be. And generally, the better stats you have in any line of work, especially in sports, you're going to get paid more. That's how you get the bag, right? You play well, you get the bag. Mm-hmm. But with the running back position, teams look at it and say, oh, he got all these reps. I don't want this guy. He's gonna fall off a cliff. Yeah, his stats were good, but you know what? The backup, he doesn't have a lot of touches. Let me get this guy. It's ass backwards. It's very tough for these guys for sure. And listen, man, like, I'm not gonna sit here and completely be woe is me. Like, these guys are still getting millions of dollars. Like, if you're Nick Chubb and you're making $34 million a year. Like, okay.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley just got 11 for 1 year.
I mean,
right. Bro, I mean, I understand, like, you're putting your body out there, but if you can't live off $11 million a year, man, come on. Like, I'm just keeping it real. Like, it's $11 million.
Yeah, we can't sit around here and act like these guys are deprived. Like, they're still putting their bodies on the line. It's nobody's saying it's an easy job or easy life. There's a lot that comes with it. But at the end of the day, there's backup running backs who are like, shit, I'd love to be in that spot and making $11 million. But yeah, I mean, it's a good dynamic duo, as you mentioned, the Steelers have. I expect Najee to have a big year. He's healthy. The line is better. And Jaylen Warren is an absolute beast. And he's going to help Najee have a big year because he's going to get 25% of the playing time at least. He's their third down back. I think
average 5 yards per carry last year.
5 yards a carry last year. So you mix in, sprinkle in a little sugar and spice, and I think they're, like you said, that's going to open up the passing game and help a young quarterback and a young offensive line.
Yeah, so I would say going into Steelers training camp on the offensive side for me, who I'm going to be watching out for, I say 3 players. I'll agree with you, Kelvin Austin, just because I didn't know what the heck. I was up there during training camp, and I was just asking all the guys that I knew up there, and they were like, we have no idea. I don't know if it was like they were keeping it a secret or what, but I'm happy to see that, he's healthy and going to get out there. George Pickens would be my number 2. I think he becomes an NFL superstar this year. And number 3, Jaylen Warren, man. I think he's going to have a big year. I think that, that another thing with Jaylen is that they're going to be able receiving as well. I think out of the backfield, I think that they're going to, I think Matt Canada is going to have some cool little goal line things. So let us pray. And that's my 3 Steelers going in the training camp. Sick podcast, Steelers Crazy will be up there. So just check our socials. We'll be posting and keeping you informed and doing this every week. But yeah, before we get out of here, Mike, let's solidify your 3 guys who they should be looking out for up at Latrobe. And so happy if you guys can get out there. Latrobe is just, I know with the pandemic and stuff, it was tough and it was 2 or 3 years off, but man, it is just, it's a beautiful college, university, and they just do the tradition and it's just like one big family, Steeler Nation. So I would suggest any out of towners that listen to our show, just make sure, put it on your bucket list to go up and to Steelers training camp. You won't regret it.
100%. And I'm with you on Jaylen Warren, man. It's a real interesting thing that can happen next year, which is Najee Harris. Next year, going into next year is his last year. We'll see if the Steelers decide to pick up his option. But very, very interesting storyline there. But that's neither here nor there. What is here, like you said, is Steelers training camp. I'm going to throw out a couple names at you. I've been giving out so many names if anybody has watched this podcast. Or I should say I've been giving out the same names over and over. So I'll try and switch it up a little bit. The first name I'll give out is Keanu Benton, defensive lineman from Wisconsin. Another rookie, Nick Herbig, our boy, came on the show and was absolutely glowing about Keanu Benton. Let's see how he looks next to Cam Hayward, because the Steelers really, really need some extra, beef on that defensive line, man. They need it. They need the damn porterhouse.
You do defense, because I just realized that I did all offense. So
did you really?
Yes, I Jaylen Warren, Pickens, and yeah.
All right, I'll stick with defense, even though I was going to throw one offensive guy in there, but I'll hit that at the very, very end.
Okay.
So Keanu Benton is one, and then let's talk a little bit about Joey Porter Jr. How can you not? This is a guy, obviously, that we want to start week 1. I don't know if he's going to. I think Levi Wallace is. But, this guy is so long. I expect him to be intercepting passes, making crazy catches left and right, like that Justin Jefferson catch he made last year. I just saw that. Shout out the quarterback show on Netflix. So JPZ, Keanu Benton, and I'll throw out one more, of course. Let's go with Marcus Golden, maybe the another ageless wonder out there, outside linebacker.
Still producing.
He can take a ton of pressure off Highsmith and Watt. So I'd like to see what he does in camp, how he looks in camp. I don't know how many preseason snaps he's going to get in the games, because he's another older player who just doesn't need them, honestly. But his leadership is definitely going to be, visually we'll be able to check that box off. All right, and the last thing I want to mention is we talked to our guy who's been hooking us up for a long time, one of our great Steelers agents. And when I was on the phone with this guy, he told me, he said, let me tell you what, Mike, Pat Freiermuth has a different look in his eyes. That's what he said. He said he has a different look in his eyes. He's gained like 20 pounds of muscle. He's faster. He's stronger. He said, bro, he is going to explode this year. Not just like a casual, good, decent year for a tight end. He's saying he is going to ball out. And I think he jumps in that top 5, maybe top 3 tight ends in the NFL conversation when it's all said and done. So there's another offensive player, make it 4, but keep an eye on Muth.
I love it. I'm ready, man. The Pirates gave us a little bit to be hopeful for at the beginning of the season, but it is officially Steelers time, baby. And it gets no better than on this sick podcast, Steeler Crazy, joining us. I'm Jay York Football. This is Mic'd Up Sports 1, and we will see you next week.
We support running backs. We support running backs.
Hey, get your money, man. That's what it's about. But at the end of the day, it's the next man up. Run it.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.